Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Ranch Report where transparency lives. Today is Wednesday, February the 18th, 2026, and my name is Mark Falcone. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. It certainly means a lot to me, and I really want to thank the many of you that submitted a plethora of positive comments just 2 weeks ago when this podcast, The Ranch Report, initially launched. I want to thank you for those comments. And I want all of you to know that I'm going to continue to keep plugging away and pulling back that curtain, if you will, giving each of you a glimpse into the behind-the-scenes look as to how East Highlands Ranch is operated. On tap today, we're going to review the draft version of the fiscal year 26-27 budget. I'm going to briefly outline the process by which that budget gets approved, but I'm going to spend the majority of this podcast honing in on one segment of this budget that when I did my deep dive, I had to go back and look at the numbers 2 and 3 times because, frankly, I was astonished as to what my deep dive revealed. And when I share this information with you, I believe you too will be equally astonished. But before I do that, let me just say that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host, yours truly, and may not reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of East Highlands Ranch, East Highlands Ranch Board of Directors, or their managing agent, the Management Trust. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the budget. So the Management Trust, in conjunction with the on-site management here at EHR, will work collectively to draft and develop the original draft version of the budget. That original draft version then gets funneled over to the Finance Monitoring Committee here at EHR. And the Financial Monitoring Committee is made up of 5 volunteer homeowners. In the past, this Finance Committee used to get at least 2 bites of the apple, if you will. In other words, 2 times to look at this budget and provide their input and suggestions relative to increase or decrease of certain revenue line items or certain expense line items. Over the last number of years, the Financial Monitoring Committee only had one opportunity to review the budget, and that was so this year as well. So once the Finance Committee makes their adjustments, it then leaves committee and goes before the board. The board has one opportunity to look at the budget. They can accept or deny the recommendations made by the Finance Committee, and they can make their own recommendations. That budget is then not seen again until the end of February at the annual Budget Town Hall, which, while we're speaking of that, let me just pull this up here. You notice that you have not heard anything from East Highlands Ranch relative to this Budget Town Hall taking place on February 25th. I'm going to share with you right now, screen share. Hopefully you guys can see this. But on February 12th, 2026, the announcement and date of next meeting is going to be February 25th, a Budget Town Hall at the Stonehouse at 6:30 p.m. So mark your calendars for that. February 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Stonehouse for the annual Town Hall budget meeting. Now, I will tell you, I'm kind of taken aback by this meeting being at the Stonehouse simply because it used to be held at the clubhouse. Naturally, the clubhouse can house more individuals. And the annual town hall budget used to be our most attended board meeting. So I'm concerned that, number one, no communication has come out to the membership relative to this meeting other than what you're seeing right now. And I'll guarantee you that once staff sees this podcast, they will get on the horn and they will dial up an email blast to send out to the membership. Okay. Number two, I'm concerned that it's being held at the Stonehouse only because there's not enough capacity in that room. You get everybody at that table, you get 15 people around that table on the outside, and it becomes very congested in that room. So I don't want to be a pessimist here, but it tells me that perhaps we want to limit the number of attendees that come out for this meeting. So I encourage you all to come out February the 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Stonehouse, as that is the time when staff will roll out the budget that you're going to see here momentarily. So let me go back here to full screen. Bear with me, please. Stop sharing. There we go. Okay. So our budget meeting for the board was scheduled to take place on February 12th. Now, in January, we were given 2 or 3 dates by staff to select, and we all agreed, all 5 of us, the February 12th worked best for each of us. I replied saying 12th works good for me, but I prefer a later start time to ensure that I can attend. That fell on deaf ears. Last month at the board meeting, in open session, I verbally requested that we push the start time back to our budget meeting on the 12th of February so I could attend. It didn't happen. Okay? My request was not honored. So therefore, I was not able to attend the February 12th budget meeting for the board. Let me just say that in today's economic climate, such as what we're in, with an economy that is continually contracting month over month, where you have major Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies laying off individuals such as Amazon, UPS, Target, Intel, Meta, Nestle, and even the Washington Post. Any organization, I don't care if it's a for-profit organization, a not-for-profit organization, or a nonprofit, any organization worth their salt in this economy will do their due diligence and will scrub their budget to look for ways to maintain profitability, maintain shareholder value, and they will scrub it to see what they can do to reduce expenses. And keep in mind that as a member, you bought into a corporation at East Highlands Ranch, so therefore you are also a shareholder. So when I announced to my colleagues that I could not attend the February 12th budget review meeting, in the email I made the comment that I encouraged all of them to have the courage to do a deep dive into every single position here at East Highlands Ranch. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to begin to look at this budget here. Bear with me as I pull it up. You all should see an Excel spreadsheet on your screen right now. And over here is the assessments. And beginning May 1st, our fiscal year runs May 1st through April 30th. So for fiscal year 26-27, you can see the assessments on the top line there. We are proposing assessments coming in at $5.2 million versus a $4.9 million current year, a difference of an increase of $358,000. If you do the quick math, you already know that we as members are looking at an assessment increase, once again, for fiscal year 26-27. I could tell you that when this budget first came out of the management trust, the original draft, this budget was a $9 assessment increase. When it went to committee, I have no reason to believe that the information that I was told is not accurate, but the committee was looking at a 20% increase. Now, according to law, according to the Davis-Sterling Act, an association can increase assessments to a maximum 20% versus prior year. The Finance Committee was looking at a 20% increase, or what would equate to a $32 a month increase. Palmer heads prevailed, and it left committee not a $9 increase, but a $12 increase. So their recommendation was to the board that we increase assessments to $12 a month based upon particular expenses. And we are going to hone in on the CSO department. Now, if you know anything about the CSO department consists of a director for that department, an assistant director, 8 full-time officers, and 1 part-time officer. and we operate that department 24/7. Now, in order to operate an department 24/7 with the staff the size of what I just said, it's usually justified when you have one of the following that exist: controlled gated entry, which we do not have; high crime statistics, which we also do not have. We have probably average or below average crime here in the community. Large commercial style amenities, we don't have those as well. We don't have frequent disturbances on the campus. We don't have a history of liability issues. And to my knowledge, is the requirement to be 24/7 operation is not driven by the insurance carrier. So when you have a 24/7 operation the size of which we have at EHR, at the CSO department, this is not a risk necessity. In my opinion, this is more of a policy luxury. And we're going to dive into more of the numbers of the CSO department. And let me just say and preface my comment that I'm not looking in any way, shape, or form to eliminate this department. I am looking to maintain safety while reducing cost and right-sizing the operation. Because some of the numbers I'm going to share with you are just going to be astounding. Now, our director of the CSO department each month has a responsibility to share with the board in open session their numbers. And their numbers, and you'll see it in the board packets, as a sheet of paper that shows number of tickets written over the course of the last 3 months, number of warnings issued, number of parking variances issued, as well as the number of incidences that take place on the campus of EHR. And when I zone in on the incidences, I am always astonished that we're being told that CSOs are doing great, no issues with the CSOs, and there were no incidences. At best, there's probably, on average, 0.5 throughout the year, 0.5 incidences. And I didn't want to come on this podcast and speak to it anecdotally, so I pulled up the actual numbers from our website, from the board packets. You can feel free to fact check me. For calendar year 2025, I pulled up all the incidences recorded, and I just want to read them off to you. In January 2025, there were 0 incidents on the campus of EHR. In February, there were 0. In March of 2025, again, 0 incidents on the campus of EHR. April, 0. May, 0. In June of 2025, we had 1 incident reported. In July, we had 2. In August of 25, there was 1 incident on the campus. In September, we went back to 0. In October, it increased to 1. In November and December of 25, there were 0 incidences. So if you take all those numbers that I just called off, you will see that there were 6 incidences that were recorded by our CSO department in the calendar year of 2025. That in and of itself is astonishing, but I'm going to share with you the following. Okay, we are proposing that this operation, let me get the Excel spreadsheet to work here, we're going to spend $836,000 of your assessment dollars to run this operation. That's roughly $336 per resident, per household. I'm going to show you something even more astonishing. I'm going to open up this comment here that I posted in here. There it is. Let me get over there. We already discussed $336 per household to fund the CSO department. But it's worse. Look at this. We are spending, based upon what I just read off on the number of incidences for calendar year 2025, and you can go back to 24, 23, and you're going to see similar numbers. We are spending $140,000 per incident. All you need to do is take that $836,000 number divided by the number of incidents, and you're going to get $140,000. Folks, that is mind-boggling. That is upsetting, to be honest with you. $140,000 per incident is just ridiculous. To have a staff the size that we do, to have an operation that's going to cost us $836,000 to operate, I think is operationally aggressive. And again, I'm not looking to eliminate this department. I believe that it brings some value to the community. I'm just looking to maintain safety while reducing cost and right-sizing this operation. And you might say, well, Mark, how are you going to do that? I'm going to share with you 4 options that you're going to see on this Excel spreadsheet. And these 4 options are, 3 of the 4 are going to save us money, save us assessment dollars as members of this community. Option A, typically many of your associations, and in fact, I think EHR is probably 1, maybe 2 communities under the umbrella of the management trust that still has in-house security. All other security operations for their clients, the management trust, are farmed out or contracted out. And option A, I'm proposing that we do the same thing, that we maintain a 24/7 operation, but that we farm out and contract out the security officers. We eliminate our director of the operation. We eliminate the assistant director. We keep, like I said, the current coverage 24/7. Contracting out, we're going to save anywhere from 15 to 25% of the current cost. That potential savings is going to be anywhere from a $5 to $8 reduction of the $12 proposed increase. Instead of spending $336 per household, under option A, we'll spend $235 per household to fund the operation of the CSO department, or roughly 30%. Moving on to option B, we eliminate the 24/7 coverage, 2 men per shift, and we go to a 16 to 18-hour coverage in-house, that 16 to 18 hours primarily being over in the evening hours and overnight. Again, we eliminate the director and the admin position of the CSO department, and I would recommend that this department get put under the umbrella responsibility of the assistant general manager. We maintain evening and overnight coverage only, and those shifts are based upon data. Under option B, we can save anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 a year. That's an $8 reduction of the $12 proposed, or if we achieve the maximum $350,000, we eliminate the assessment reduction entirely by choosing option B. Instead of $336 per household to fund this department, under option B, we reduce that by 42% down to $195 per household. Option C, I like this option the best. We maintain 24/7 coverage, but we do that with single man coverage with overlapping shifts. Okay? Again, we eliminate the director of the CSO department, we eliminate the assistant director, and we put it under the umbrella responsibility of the AGM. Now, the assistant director of the CSO department is primarily an admin position. Now, I know, strike that, I have the unique experience of working inside the operation of EHR. I know the workflow, I know the workload, and I know how individuals work. And I could tell you, for those that remember Karen Contreras as the executive assistant, I could tell you that Karen had a lot of time on her hands. Oftentimes I would see her clipping her fingernails and doing crossword puzzles. As you know, Karen left and Zena Baku came in. Everybody remembers Zena. Zena was very well respected, and we appreciate what Zena did in her short time here at EHR. But even Zena had time on her hands. She would admit that to you. So under option B and option C, I'm proposing not only that the operation gets put under the umbrella of the AGM responsibility, but the admin piece of the CSO gets consolidated and merged in to the executive assistant at EHR. There is no reason why that the executive assistant can't do both positions. Under option C, again, we maintain 24/7 coverage, but as I said, we go to single coverage with overlapping shifts. We have 4 shifts in a 24-hour period. For example, we have a 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. We then have a 11 to 8 p.m., 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. shift. So you got that overlapping coverage. We then have a 2 to 10 shift, and then a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. We operate 24/7, but instead of having 2 people per shift, we reduce it to 1 per shift. That potential savings is $300,000. That all but eliminates the proposed $12 increase. And instead of $336 per household to fund this department, we reduce it by 36% to $215 per household. Or we can go to option D. We can do nothing. We can continue to have 2-man coverage 24/7, and we can continue to spend $336 per household to fund this department and $174,000 per incident, which I don't think that goes over very well with any of you. So that being said, I think the board, I'm saying, were remiss significantly in not doing their due diligence relative to this budget for 26-27. They didn't do a thing in terms of looking at how to reduce expenses. Now, I strike that to their credit. I believe they did reduce the legal cost and some other expense within the budget in looking at this compared to the original budget. But outside of that, they didn't do a deep dive. They failed to do their due diligence in looking at ways to maintain shareholder value, if you will, and see how we can not continually squeeze the membership for more assessment dollars month over month, year over year. So that being said, I encourage all of you, as many of you that can, come out to this budget town hall on February 25th. Come out for it. There will be a time for open comment where you can deliver your comments and your feelings as to how you feel about this budget. And we'll go from there. February 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Stonehouse. So let me go back to stop sharing this page. Bear with me. There we go. So that being said, I wanted to keep this roughly at a half hour. We've got 11 minutes left according to my timer, so we'll go ahead and cut this short. And in fact, while I still have some time, I'm going to go back to screen sharing. I'm just going to share a video with you. It's about a 16-second video, and I want you to take a look at this video. It's indicative of the culture of mediocrity, if you will, and the culture of apathy, if you will, amongst this operation, the people that run this operation. Give you a background. I last Wednesday, I believe it was, I received a phone call at 5 o'clock in the evening from a homeowner saying, "Hey, Mark, there's broken irrigation on the corner of Van Leuven and Highland Avenue." This homeowner had called at 3 o'clock and reported it to staff. 2 hours later, it was still shooting straight up into the air. I told the homeowner, I said, "Look, I'll go ahead and fire off an email to staff and copy the board." She was on her way to the gym. I said, "When you return from the gym, and if you see it still on, can you let me know, please?" So I fired off an email, copied everybody saying, "Hey, look, I'm hearing that there's broken irrigation." Staff responded saying that they checked the box. It's a check the box task, if you will. They reached out to Brightview and they submitted a work order. And my first thought was, it's 5 o'clock at night. Why are you submitting a work order? Why aren't you calling them? Why aren't you getting somebody on site to shut this water off? But as a director, I'm not in a position to give direction to staff, so I let it go. This homeowner called me 7 o'clock at night saying, "Mark, is still shooting straight up in the air." So I took it upon myself to get in my car, and I went up there. And let's see here. Hopefully this will play. Bear with me. It's not going to play. Damn it. Anyway, 7 o'clock at night, I had to go out there on site, and I found the irrigation box, and I shut the water off myself. I mean, for 4 hours, it was going nonstop. 4 hours that we know of. This homeowner saw it at 3 o'clock. Who knows if it was going off prior to 3 o'clock. But for 4 hours straight, we wasted precious resource in terms of water and assessments dollars just going right down the drain. And it's I wish I could show this video, but it's again, it's very indicative of the culture of mediocrity and the culture of apathy that exists in this operation. My question was, why didn't staff contact the CSO to come out and shut the irrigation off at the irrigation box? Why didn't the CSO notice it? They're driving back and forth on that main thoroughfare of Highland Avenue. They're going to see the irrigation shooting into the air. They're going to see the water coming down the curb and into the street. Why didn't they stop and shut it off? Furthermore, why didn't management leave their office, get in their car, go on site, and do what I did, find the irrigation box, and shut the damn thing off? They failed to do that. As a result, again, they wasted water and our assessments. So that being said, again, I encourage all of you to attend the budget town hall on the 25th, 6:30 p.m. at the Stonehouse. And in the meantime, if you like this podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumb up. In the meantime, I look forward to talking to all of you again on the next episode of the Ranch Report. Until then, take care.